Hello, everyone. Welcome to the press conference. Please keep your questions polite and together. Obviously, after the San Diego Vipers took down the Oregon Warhawks at home in San Diego, I'm going to open the floor to questions. But Austin, if you ever feel like there are a question you don't want to answer or you're uncomfortable with answering, by all means, you can refuse to answer that question. I completely understand. But I'm going to open the floor to questions. So we'll start with the young man over there, if we can get him a microphone. Thank you.
Hey, Coach, great win. Obviously, one that I think you're going to remember for a long time. Obviously, beating your rivals. What went into this one? What do you think worked well, and why did you guys roar back in the second half?
Well, obviously, we were getting off to a slow start in the first half. I think that was pretty apparent based on the lack of offensive production. It's a week-to-week league, though. Obviously, week one, there's going to be growing pains. But I think going into halftime, we were like, our defense was already playing stout up to this point. We'd only given up 3 points. Felt like we were still moving the ball down the field pretty well. And I was talking to the guys in the locker room. I was like, listen, if we get even one score, I feel like we're going to beat these guys. They are not moving the ball on us whatsoever. Our defense is playing phenomenally. We just got to get a score down, let our guys rest on defense, let them fresh for the next drive. And I think the mentality was just at an all-time high coming out of halftime.
So you come at halftime, obviously, you're down 3-0, and I know that I assume that conversation when the locker room was very solid and very, to the point. But kind of what I want to talk about is kind of your mentality going into that. So what I mean is, you came out, you had a long drive, and you scored. Was that something you drew up at halftime, or was that something that just came out of nowhere?
That was just what the offense, that was just all mentality, coming out of halftime, we needed a big drive, and it was very apparent that, had not scored in the first half, you got to put up points to win, right? So we needed a big drive coming out of halftime. Our guys delivered, and we kind of just cruised the rest of the way.
Coach, how do you feel your rookie quarterback played today? How do you think Carson Howell played in the situations he was put in? Obviously, coming out of halftime down 3, and then you guys roaring to a 14-3 win. How do you think your quarterback played, and was there anything that you learned going forward that maybe you could use later on?
I think the most important thing with Carson is he played mistake-free football, and that will win you a lot of games in this league. The turnover battle is everything, and us not having turned over the ball in the second half, most notably from Carson, yeah, that was a big part in our offensive game plan coming out of halftime, and I mean, it showed.
I know we asked about your quarterback just now, and I kind of want to talk about another piece of your offense. How do you feel about your wide receiver, Richard Black? Obviously, he comes out in the second half and becomes a huge target for your rookie quarterback. Was that something that these two discussed before the game, like they were kind of on the same page? Or was it something where it was like, okay, we need to get something going. I trust this guy. He's younger. He's like me. We're in this league, and this is our first game. And you think they clicked there? Or was this something discussed prior that you already get the bill to your playmaker, Richard Black, early on?
Well, we knew that Richard had to be our number one target, right? So yeah, obviously Carson and Richard, they talked to each other in the locker room at halftime, discussed how they could get opportunities to each other, get the ball to them. And yeah, our coach, he allowed us to he schemed up some stuff that was able to get him open easier because he was getting pressed a lot in the first half, and he wasn't really able to gain any separation, but we were able to draw some stuff up, and he was able to deliver the second half.
In that game, obviously, your team did not come away with any sacks, and you guys couldn't really get to the quarterback, for that matter. but your linebackers played a great game. Obviously, your rookie Alvin Usman makes a huge play there with some TFLs, and your DBs, mostly your rookies, did well today. But how did you feel about the fourth-year Cooper Tanner jumping in front of that pass that Edgar Rich tried to slip in there to seal the game?
That was a hell of a play, and credit goes to Cooper, man. He read that ball perfectly. I couldn't have seen it better myself. Like, and our defensive line, they were getting pressure. It was just they weren't getting home, and that'll happen in football. Like, you won't always get the results on the stat sheet, but what comes off the stat sheet was very important. Being able to force him into that throw where Cooper can make a play on it, that's what we're looking for as a defensive unit.
So after the game, a couple of things happened that I want to talk about. You had a moment with Mike Fletcher Jr. where you two shook hands and you hugged and kind of maybe buried the hatchet a bit. I know there's a little bit of respect there. That's the first part. And the second part is obviously you and Carson Howell had a moment where, I mean, he was crying in your shirt that you guys peeled it off and you guys got with it home. But I mean, more or less, I'm just trying to, how do you feel after that win with, Mike Fletcher Jr. shaking your hand, giving you a hug, and then that moment with Carson?
Listen, I have a lot of history with Mike Fletcher, in wrestling and now in football, and obviously him being the head coach of Oregon, this was going to be a heated matchup regardless, but I have a lot of respect for him either way, like I always have, and getting a win at home against our big rival, yeah, it's gonna feel extra special, and Carson definitely felt that after the game as well, and yeah, it's just one of those games that you're gonna remember for a long time.
So speaking of games, remember a long time, I want to talk about your week 2 matchup, another divisional match against San Antonio, the runner-ups for 2 years straight against Southampton. They've been blown out twice, but they've gotten there, and your team has not played well, specifically in San Antonio. What do you need to do next week to get a win?
Well, it starts up front, and I mean, our biggest offensive proponent in Oregon was definitely Shannon Beck. Like, scoring the 2 touchdowns for us was huge. So I want to get him going first, get him into a rhythm, and that'll open everything up for Carson in the passing game. And then obviously on the defensive side of the ball, same thing. Get home, get sacks, gain pressure. Like, it's gonna force the opposing quarterback to make mistakes, and that's a winning recipe every time.
So the next matchups on Thursday, you had Cincinnati versus Washington, the Seminoles taking on the Kings, and then San Antonio taking on the Oklahoma City Bisons. Obviously, San Antonio has 2 home games at home to open the season. Are you going to be watching those matchups carefully? Obviously, with the defensive-minded head coaches in Cincy and Washington, are you going to be watching that game more, or are you going to be watching the San Antonio game, maybe trying to pick up some schemes and fits against them for next week?
I'll probably watch both of them, to be honest. Like, there's always something I could take away from every game that I watch in the film, and certain plays that a wide receiver might make that our corners can take advantage of in our game plan. So yeah, I'll watch all the games and take bits and pieces that we can implement to our game plan, give us more success on the field.
So I know Mike Fletcher Jr. answered it in his press conference, so I figured I'd pose it to you. You play Southampton the 5th week of the season. And there have been some comments by Southampton that obviously Jake is going to talk about a bit, but I want to talk about what did you see out of the reigning champions? Because I know you said before that this is your year. This is the year you're going to make a run. You believe in this team. And obviously you played in week 5, and I know they're probably the last thing on your mind, but what did you learn from that experience, seeing them play Baton Rouge?
They're a hell of a team. They're a hell of a team. But I'm focused on my team. I'm focused on a week-to-week basis. So I'm not worried about them right now. When we cross their path, we'll get there, but yeah, I'm worried about what's in front of us right now.
another part, coach, is your schedule. Obviously, it's not easy. This is your first home game of the season, and then you go on a road trip for the next 5 weeks. I'm sorry, 6 weeks. I can't. It's hard for fucking the schedule's a mess. Is that something that you guys talked about? Are you worried that your teams are going to get burnt out being away from home for so long, or do you like the fact that your latter half of the season is homeful?
Our guys love the challenge, being on the road, shutting up the home crowd. Like, they're not worried about this. I'm not worried about this. Like, it's gonna be nice getting a home stretch at the end of the season, but if we have to go on the road for a number of weeks, they're ready for it.
So, final question. All the times we got, all the questions we got time for. It's kind of one for me personally. Obviously, you being my tag partner, you being like one of the rocks, and obviously with WLW on hiatus right now. I mean, I've been kind of just chilling at home, and it's been nice. But the one thing that kind of bothers me, and it's something as an owner of the league that I don't like, is the way Southampton's been talking. And I kind of wanted to get your 2 cents on it. Obviously, Frank Uri is a very confident head coach. He believes his team is going to go for a three-peat, but he says no one in this league can touch him. Flecha said talk is cheap, prove it on the field. And I want to know what your take is on what Flecha said, and if the comments by the head coach of Frank Uri is kind of something that you're thinking about right now. Obviously, I mean, he said a lot of things. He said that no one in this league can touch him. He's going to blow every team up by 50. He mentioned you in particular. He said your rookie quarterback can't stop his defense. And so I kind of want to know where your head is after those comments, and if, Frank Uri is holding up any sort of rent in your head.
I guess we'll see him on the field.
I mean, that's a solid fucking point. I mean, like I said, I mean, we're tag partners, and if I want to jump ahead, I mean, obviously, I'm not any partial to any team, but if anyone can beat Southampton, it's you. I mean, I know this. You're determined, and Frank Uri will not like me saying this, but what I saw from your team was a team that had a spirited comeback, and a team that believes in themselves. And obviously, I mean, you've demonstrated that today, that these guys, it takes everyone, right? And I know Carson Howe said in his press conference that he sees a lot that he can learn from you. And kind of the last piece of this press conference is just kind of, have you taken Carson Howe under your wing? And obviously you're a defensive minded head coach. Have you two talked a lot and discussed schemes and what to look out for, obviously?
Yeah, we talk all the time. I mean, he's our quarterback. Of course I have to talk to him. He's going to be our guy for a very long time. And as a defensive guy, of course I'm going to tell him things that I see that he can easily adapt to over the weeks. And I can't wait to see how it translates to his play on the field as the season goes along.
All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck in playing your week 2 matchup away from home. Obviously, it's going to be a different scene. You're not going to have the home crowd behind you. But I think I'm just going to wish you the best of luck in San Antonio. And that's all the time we got for questions. Thank you for taking the time and answering these reporters' questions. And we hope you all enjoyed. And we're looking forward to see what you do in week 2.